Empress Altair slammed her fist on the arm of her obsidian throne, the rage in her four crimson eyes burning hotter than the stars of the Empress's vast domain at the very notion of the humans and their 200 supercarriers. Admiral Russell had been expecting this moment for decades, steepling his fingers as he watched the blinking red communique from Earth Central Command scroll across the screen of his ready room. The battle-hardened admiral took a swig of scalding coffee that would have seared the three throats of a Krenim, but merely scorched the single human gullet, leaning back in his chair as he read word after damning word, telling of the Krenim's wrathful declaration of war. The ruthless Empress Altair was furious to learn of humanity's vast naval superiority, but the old admiral merely grunted. The Krenim had no one to blame for themselves for the reckoning that was to come. Humanity had expanded across the stars in the centuries since they first slipped the surly bonds of Earth, growing into a major intergalactic power, even as they built their fleet of supercarriers into the hundreds. When mankind made first contact with the Krenim, they came in peace. But the technologically advanced aliens were an isolationist species. They looked upon humanity's rapid expansion and potent military with covetous eyes, and relations soon soured as the Krenim saw their dominance threatened. And now Empress Altair meant to make a trophy of mankind's skull. Russell scratched the stubble on his chin as he reviewed his orders from Earth Central Command, his fleet already making final preparations for the jump to Krenim space. His mission was clear: take the first fleet to the Krenim homeworld. Deliver an ultimatum to that tentacled bitch Altair. Surrender to humanity's might or see her cities burn and her worlds cracked open like overripe fruit. Russell stood, making his way through stark corridors to the bridge of his ship, crewmen and women leaping out of his path. The orders were given, coordinates locked, and with a thrumming of power that shook the supercarrier's bones, the first fleet made the jump to Krenim space, emerging on the outskirts of the system in a blaze of blue shifted light. "Assume attack formation," Russell said to his waiting crew, their hands dancing over the consoles. "Launch all fighters." Silvery daggers poured from the bays of the supercarriers by the thousands, the fighters forming up in a vanguard before the assembled might of the human fleet. Russell watched with a gimlet eye as the ships spread out in a three-dimensional ballet of interlocking fields of fire. The time had come. He would deliver Earth's demands to Empress Altair personally, even as he showed her the folly of opposing humanity's military might. The fate of billions hung in the balance. If Altair's madness could not be checked here today, it would surely lead to a catastrophic war that would set the galaxy ablaze. Already Russell could see the forces of the Krenim gathering above their green and blue homeworld, their spiked warships bristling with weapons and emerging from smoky nebulas to face mankind's armada. The Krenim were a species that respected only strength. Russell would give them a display of strength such as the galaxy had never seen, such as would turn the Empress rage to fear and awe. "Open a channel to the Krenim flagship," Admiral Russell said as he took a breath, the first missiles already flaring to life in the void between the gathered fleets. It was time to give the Empress her first and last lesson in humility. The view screen flared to life, and there was Empress Altair, in all her alien glory, tendrils coiling with rage as crimson eyes burned into Russell's very soul. The old admiral met that baleful glare without flinching, his own gaze flinty. "Arrogant humans," Altair spat, her voice sibilant and strange to human ears. "You dare to bring your fleet to the very heart of the Krenim Empire? Withdraw now or face the full might of our wrath." Russell leaned forward in his command chair, his voice level. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Empress. The Terran Alliance has authorized me to deliver an ultimatum. Stand down your forces and agree to a peace treaty or suffer the consequences." Altair made a choking sound that might have been laughter. "Peace treaty. We will never bow to your tyranny. For too long, humanity has expanded unchecked, a cancer upon the galaxy. But no longer." Her eyes glittered with malice. "We have developed a weapon that will bring your vaunted fleets to their knees. Behold!" Alarms blared on the bridge as sensors registered a massive energy surge from the largest Krenim ship. Russell barked orders to raise shields and brace for impact, watching grimly as a blinding lance of pure energy sliced through the void towards his fleet. The beam slammed into the First Fleet's shields with enough force to send shudders through the entire supercarrier. Damage reports flooded in, shields holding, but multiple ships reporting hull breaches and systems failures. Russell gritted his teeth. That Crenum weapon packed one hell of a punch. It had to be neutralized, or this battle would be over before it began. "Commander Zephyr," he said into the comms, "I need your birds in the black. Take out that flagship's weapon systems. We'll keep them busy." "Aye, aye, sir," came Zephyr's drawled reply. "We'll get it done." Silver fighters poured from the launch bays, Zephyr's squadron at the tip of the spear as they burned hard for the Crenum flagship. Russell watched them go, his eyes hard as he turned his attention back to the battle at hand. "All ships, fire at will. Let's show these Crenum what happens when you poke the Terran bear." Space lit up with the flash of missiles and the flare of directed energy weapons as the First Fleet went to work, pouring fire into the Crenum ships. The enemy vessels were monstrously large and heavily armored, but they were also slower and less maneuverable than the human ships. Russell used that to his advantage, his supercarriers dancing nimbly through the black as they hammered at the Crenum from all sides. But the Crenum gave as good as they got. Emerald beams lashed out again and again, sending human ships tumbling away in clouds of shrapnel and venting atmosphere. The hull of Russell's supercarrier shuddered and groaned as a glancing blow seared along its flank. Breach alarms howled, damage control teams scrambling to seal the punctures. And still that damned Crenum superweapon kept firing. Russell watched the battle unfold on the tactical display, face hardened as ship after ship winked out. They were hurting the Crenum, but not enough. Not fast enough. If Zephyr didn't take out that flagship soon. A brilliant flare lit up the screen, a sun going nova at the heart of the Crenum fleet. Russell felt a savage rush of triumph as he watched the Crenum flagship's central section disintegrate, the massive vessel falling out of formation like a whale harpooned through the heart. "Zephyr to Admiral Russell," came the commander's voice over the comms, tight with pain and static. "Weapon systems neutralized. I say again, we got the bastards, but we took heavy losses. Requesting permission to—" The channel dissolved into a burst of static. Russell closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the lives already lost settle over him like a shroud. But there was no time to mourn. Not now. Not with the battle still raging and the Crenum fleet reeling. "All ships press the attack," Russell roared. "Let's finish this." The First Fleet surged forward, pouring fire into the Crenum ships as they tried to regroup. Without their superweapon, the enemy vessels were vulnerable, their formations crumbling under the onslaught. One by one they fell, torn apart by missiles and energy beams until only a handful remained. On the screen, Russell saw Empress Altair's face contort with fury and something that might have been fear. "All ships retreat," she snarled. "Fall back to the rally point. We'll finish this another day." The Crenum ships began to turn, thrusters flaring as they fled the battlefield. Russell leaned forward, eyes intent. They had the Crenum on the ropes. If they could just— "Admiral, urgent transmission from Earth." The comms officer's voice snapped Russell's attention away from the retreating enemy ships. He turned, watching as a recorded message played out on the screen. What he saw turned his blood to ice. The second Crenum fleet attacked the Elysium colony, caught the defenders off guard. The words washed over Russell like a tide, images of the burning colony seared into his mind's eye. How? How had the Crenum managed to slip a second fleet past Earth's sensors? It shouldn't have been possible unless this attack had been a diversion all along, a feint to draw Earth's forces away from the colonies so the Crenum could strike at humanity's vulnerable underbelly. And he'd fallen for it like a damned rookie fresh out of the academy. Russell focused his mind, fury and self-recrimination warring in his gut. He had a choice to make, and he had to make it now. Continue the attack on the Crenum homeworld and risk losing the Elysium colony, or split his forces and potentially let Altair escape to fight another day. The seconds ticked by like eons, the weight of countless lives hanging in the balance. Russell closed his eyes, drawing in a deep breath. There was only one choice he could make. Only one choice that would let him look himself in the mirror when this was all over. He turned to his comms officer, his voice like tempered steel. "Bravo, Squadron. You're with me. Charlie and Delta, fall back to Elysium. The rest of you, keep the pressure on those Krenim bastards," Russell barked into the comms. His fingers flew over the command console, coordinating the complex dance of ships as the First Fleet split into two. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity. Officers relayed orders, tactical displays flickered with new information, and the low hum of the engines shifted as the fleet reorganized. "Sir, half our forces are en route to Elysium," the XO reported. Russell nodded grimly. "Let's hope they're in time. Helm, set course for the retreating Krenim. We're going after Altair." The Supercarriers surged forward, their massive engines flaring bright against the void. Russell watched the tactical display, his mind focused as reports from Elysium streamed in. The colony's orbital defenses blazed, streams of fire pouring from gun emplacements as they struggled to hold back the Krenim assault. Explosions bloomed in silence, debris fields expanding as ships on both sides were torn apart. But then humanity's reinforcements arrived. Fresh squadrons of fighters poured from the supercarriers, swarming the Krenim ships like angry hornets. Point defense systems lit up the night, filling space with a web of deadly fire. "Elysium reporting, sir," the comms officer called out. "The Krenim assault force is in full retreat. Our boys sent them packing." A ragged cheer went up from the bridge crew. Russell allowed himself a small smile before refocusing on the tactical display. Altair's battered fleet was still ahead of them, limping deeper into Krenim space. They chased the Krenim for hours, slowly closing the gap. Russell was about to order another burst of acceleration when the sensors lit up. "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple signatures dead ahead. Sir, it's a shipyard, a big one." The main view screen flared to life, showing a massive structure floating in the void. Skeletal frames of half-built warships hung in vacuum, surrounded by swarms of construction drones and support craft. Russell's eyes narrowed. "Well, now that's quite the prize. All ships, battle stations, we're taking that shipyard down." The human fleet accelerated, weapons systems powering up as they closed in on the Krenim facility. But the aliens weren't going down without a fight. Experimental weapons lashed out at the human ships, beams of energy that seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. A supercarrier to Russell's left shuddered as one such beam carved a glowing furrow along its hull. "Shields holding at 62%, Admiral," the tactical officer reported. "But that beam just ignored our point defense grid entirely." Russell gritted his teeth. "Focus fire on those weapon emplacements and get me Zephyr!" Commander Zephyr's face appeared on a side screen, his flight helmet already on. "Reporting as ordered, sir." "I need you to pull off another miracle, Commander," Russell said. "Take your best pilots and get inside that shipyard. Find the control center and light it up." Zephyr grinned. "Consider it done, Admiral." Russell watched as Zephyr's strike team launched, their nimble fighters darting between streams of fire and debris. The main Krenim fleet had arrived now, throwing themselves at the human ships with suicidal perseverance. A Krenim cruiser, engines blazing, aimed itself directly at Russell's flagship. Point defense systems opened up, stitching lines of fire across the enemy ship's hull, but it kept coming. "All hands, brace for impact," Russell roared. The Krenim ship slammed into their shields, the energy barrier flaring bright enough to leave spots in Russell's vision. Alarms blared as the ship bucked and shuddered. "Shields down to 30%, the tactical officer reported. "But we're still in the fight." Russell nodded grimly. "Status on Zephyr's team?" Before anyone could answer, a series of explosions blossomed deep within the shipyard. Entire sections of the facility began to break apart, venting atmosphere and debris into space. "Zephyr to Admiral Russell," the comms crackled. "Package delivered, sir. This whole place is going up. Suggest we put some distance between us and it, ASAP." Russell didn't need to be told twice. "All ships fall back to minimum safe distance. Zephyr, get your people out of there." The human fleet disengaged, pulling away from the disintegrating shipyard. Zephyr's fighters streaked out of the expanding debris field, afterburners glowing hot as they raced to rejoin the fleet. With the shipyard destroyed and their production capabilities crippled, the fight seemed to go out of the Krenim. Russell pressed the attack, his ships pouring fire into the enemy fleet. One by one, Krenim ships winked out of existence, overwhelmed by the humans' superior firepower. Then, in the midst of the chaos, a single Krenim vessel broke away from the rest. Russell recognized it immediately. Altair's flagship. "Sir, the Krenim flagship is charging its hyperdrive," the sensor officer called out. Russell's eyes narrowed. "Not this time, you tentacled bitch. Zephyr!" "Already on it, sir," Zephyr's voice came back, cool and confident. Russell watched as Zephyr's squadron gave chase, following Altair's ship into the swirling vortex of hyperspace. Minutes ticked by, feeling like hours. Then, with a flash of light, both Altair's ship and Zephyr's fighters dropped back into normal space. The Krenim flagship was listing badly, venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. "Zephyr to Admiral Russell. Target is disabled and dead in space, awaiting further orders." A predatory smile spread across Russell's face as he opened a channel to the crippled Krenim vessel. "Empress Altair," he said, his voice hard. "This is Admiral Russell of the Terran Alliance. Your fleet is destroyed, your shipyards are in ruins, and you have nowhere left to run. I'll say this once. Surrender now or be destroyed." There was a long moment of silence. Russell could almost imagine the fury in those alien eyes, the rage at being so thoroughly defeated. Then, finally, a response came through. "This is Empress Altair of the Krenim Empire. This is Empress Altair of the Krenim Empire. I will never surrender to the likes of you, human scum. We will fight to our last breath." Admiral Russell's fists tight as he stared at the tactical display. The crippled Krenim flagship hung before them, venting atmosphere and debris. His finger hovered over the command console, ready to give the order that would obliterate Altair and her ship in a storm of nuclear fire. "All ships prepare to fire on my mark," Russell growled. "Wait!" Commander Zephyr's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. "Admiral, if we take her alive, think of the intelligence we could gain, the bargaining power we'd have over the remaining Krenim forces." Russell paused, considering. The younger man had a point. He keyed the ship-wide comms. "Belay that fire order. Zephyr, you have a go for boarding action. Bring me that tentacled bitch alive if you can." Zephyr's team of Marines assembled in the launch bay, checking weapons and sealing vacuum-rated combat armor. The assault shuttle's engines whined as it prepared for launch. "Lock and load, people," Zephyr barked. "We're about to ruin the Empress's day." The shuttle screamed across the void, dodging sporadic fire from the Krenim ship's remaining point defense batteries. With a bone-jarring impact, they slammed into the hull, cutting torches flaring as they carved an entrance. Zephyr was first through the breach, pulse rifle sweeping the smoky corridor beyond. "Move! Move! Move!" The Marines poured in behind him, immediately coming under fire from Krenim defenders. Energy bolts sizzled past as Zephyr dove for cover, returning fire. The staccato chatter of human weapons filled the air as they pushed forward, leaving Krenim bodies in their wake. They fought their way deeper into the ship, through twisting corridors and vast engineering spaces. Zephyr's team took casualties, good men and women falling to Krenim fire or blown out into the void through hull breaches. But they pressed on, driven by steadfast perseverance. As they neared the bridge, they encountered a new threat. Towering Krenim warriors in gleaming battle armor blocked their path, armed with cruel-looking energy weapons. "Empress's personal guard," Zephyr spat. "Take them down!" The fight was brutal and close quarters. The genetically enhanced Krenim were stronger, faster, more durable than their lesser kin. But Zephyr's remaining Marines were the best humanity had to offer, their tactics honed by years of war. They fell back, drawing the Krenim into choke points where superior numbers counted for less. Grenades thundered in the confined space. Bullets pinged off armor. Energy beams sliced through bulkheads. When the smoke cleared, Zephyr stood over the last fallen Krenim guard, his armor scorched and dented. He looked to his remaining team, less than half their original number. Let's finish this. They breached the bridge to find Empress Altair standing proud and defiant. Zephyr's blood ran cold as he saw the flashing warning on a nearby console. Self-destruct sequence activated. "You're too late, humans," Altair sneered. "I'll see you in hell." Zephyr made a split-second decision. "Secure the Empress. We're taking her with us." He launched himself at Altair, the two colliding in a tangle of limbs. She was incredibly strong, cybernetically enhanced muscles straining against his armor's servo motors. They grappled furiously as the ship shuddered around them, klaxons blaring. Zephyr managed to get Altair in a chokehold, squeezing until her struggles weakened. He zip-tied her hands and hauled her to her feet. "We're leaving! Now!" They sprinted for the shuttle, half-dragging the semi-conscious Empress. The ship's superstructure groaned ominously, entire sections beginning to tear themselves apart. "Go, go, go!" Zephyr bellowed as they piled into the shuttle. The pilot gunned the engines, blasting away from the dying Krenim flagship. They were barely clear when the reactor went critical. A silent flower of nuclear fire bloomed behind them, the shockwave buffeting their small craft. Through the view screen, Zephyr watched the last remnants of the once mighty Krenim armada disappear in that final conflagration. He looked to where Empress Altair lay bound and glaring on the shuttle's deck. "It's over," he told her. "You've lost." The shuttle streaked towards the waiting human fleet, leaving the graveyard of Krenim ships behind. Admiral Russell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Victory, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The debris field of Altair's destroyed vessel hung in space before them, a grim reminder of their costly victory. "Status report," Russell ordered, his voice tight. Commander Chen, his XO, stepped forward. "Sir, we've lost 3 supercarriers and over a dozen cruisers. Casualty reports are still coming in, but early estimates suggest we've lost at least 15,000 personnel." Russell's eyebrows furrowed. The price of victory had been steep. "And the Empress?" "Secured in the brig, Admiral. She's not cooperating." "Bring her to me," Russell commanded. Minutes later, Empress Altair was escorted onto the bridge, her hands bound behind her back. Despite her captivity, she stood tall, her alien features twisted in a sneer of defiance. Russell approached her slowly. "It's over, Altair. Your empire is in ruins. Tell us what we need to know, and perhaps we can negotiate better terms for your people." Altair's eyes flashed with hatred. "You understand nothing, human. The Krenim Empire has stood for millennia. We will rise again, stronger than ever. And when we do, we will crush your pathetic species beneath our heel." Russell leaned in close, his voice low and dangerous. "I've seen entire worlds burn because of your warmongering. You'll rot in a cell for the rest of your days, Altair. That's a promise." As Altair was led away, alarms blared across the bridge. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "we've detected a group of Krenim ships slipping past our perimeter. They're making a run for it." Russell rushed to the display. A small cluster of vessels was indeed fleeing, pushing their engines to the limit as they raced away from the battlefield. "Composition?" Russell demanded. The officer studied his readouts. "Mostly civilian craft, sir. We're detecting a large number of non-combatants, including children." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Russell felt the weight of command pressing down on him like a physical force. He could order his ships to pursue, to wipe out the last remnants of the Krenim, but at what cost? "Admiral," Commander Chen spoke up, "if we let them go, they could regroup. Come back stronger. We have the chance to end this threat once and for all." Russell closed his eyes, weighing the decision. When he opened them, his gaze was steely. "Let them go," he ordered. "We've won this war. I won't add the blood of children to my hands." As the Krenim ships disappeared into the depths of space, Russell turned to his crew. "Set course for Earth. It's time to go home." The journey back was a somber one. In every corridor, in every mess hall, the toll of the war was evident. Crew members moved with a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion, their eyes haunted by the horrors they'd witnessed. Russell spent hours in his quarters, poring over casualty lists and damage reports. The names of the fallen seemed endless, each one a stark reminder of the cost of their victory. When they finally reached Earth, the fleet was greeted by a cacophony of cheers and celebrations. From orbit, Russell watched as fireworks lit up the night sky over every major city. But as he prepared to disembark, Russell couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was merely the eye of the storm. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the Krenim were regrouping, and he feared that one day, humanity would pay the price for the mercy they'd shown today.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.